my honor and to announce the keynote speaker for today. And my kid's hero is Larry Smith. Larry Smith has been a full-time fishing guide for over 30 years. He's the host of Larry Smith Outdoors. From getting his start from John Gillespie on his show, Larry is the meaning of preservation. From long hours of guiding, farming, caring for his animals, and fathering 3 kids, Larry definitely can tell you about a lot of hard days' work. Having a positive outlook on life has allowed him to dedicate his life to his passion. Larry Smith, thank you.
Hey, I want to thank, first of all, Josh for sure for inviting me to come to this convention, because it is pretty special to me, making my living in the outdoors. I've always been very passionate. Fishing is definitely my life, even though I've really gotten into a lot of other things. But when I was guiding full time, and I'm still guiding a lot, I was averaging over 300 days a year. So really, when you think about like clean water, to me is everything. And I think about when I was a little kid and we lived in Appleton and fishing the Fox River through the valley, how polluted all that waterway was. And you look at it now, I mean, it is pretty amazing. So, I mean, I thank everybody that's in here for the great hard work that they do, and because it is very important to me. Clean water, I've always said this about this country. I don't know of any other place on this whole planet where we have any more water or dirt to grow crops than right here in this country. We're very, very fortunate. I feel very, very fortunate to live in this country. That's why every week on our show, I thank the military, I thank all of our veterans, of course, and then, of course, all of our firefighters and paramedics and all of our law enforcement agents. Again, I feel very special to be able to live in this country. So I'm going to go through a few things with everybody. I'm going to kind of tell you my history, where I came from. And I'm not telling you my history because I want you to feel sorry for me. I'm going to tell you my history, where I came from, because you know what? I say this all the time. If I can do this, anybody can do it. You know, when you look at goals and you want to reach goals, it can be done. It doesn't matter who you are. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more. I do have 4 kids, and I've been married 32 years. I've been guiding full-time for basically right around that 30-year mark. I also farm. I got into farming about 10 years ago with my youngest boy because he really is passionate about it. No farming ever came from our background. None of my family ever farmed. I'm the first farmer in our generation to ever take up that. The other part is that I have a very unique show. It's the only show in the whole country that is national, regional, and of course we run all the big streaming platforms, but it's the only show in the whole country that does 52 new shows a year of hunting and fishing. And the guy that brought me into the situation where I'm in and opened up a lot of doors for me is John Gillespie, and he has a fishing show that does 52 weeks. And again, he was the only one before we started what we have going to do that 52-week platform, so which is a really unique platform. And what it does is it keeps our audience every week watching our show. All of our shows are shot and aired within 2 to 3 weeks, so they're all current, and that's huge right there. So what I want to do after I tell you guys a little bit more about who I am and why I'm where I'm at, I want to ask you guys and gals some questions, or you guys ask me some questions, and I've got some really great prizes. This is one of our sponsors, Vortex, so I have a Vortex rangefinder and a pair of Diamondback binoculars, and I already know what number of questions I'm going to be giving this out, but to everybody else, I've got a bunch of jerky and all different flavors from our sponsor, Mike's Country Meats. So, you know, just be aware of all that. So I'm going to tell you, I'm severely ADH, okay? And that has allowed me to do all the things that I do. Basically, last night I got back from our farm in Minnesota, had some clients up there, and we were bull hunting. And I try to keep myself, like, especially when I'm going to do these kind of things, because otherwise I really start jumping around. My mind is racing 1,000 miles an hour. So I try to keep myself down when I do these things to about 2 hours of sleep for a couple days. Like, I'll do 2 hours one night, 2.5 the next night, and then come into these seminars and do them. because otherwise I would have been to the back room again and back already. But, so I want to tell you this, as a little kid growing up, again, severely ADHD, there wasn't any of these drugs, thank God for that on my end. So really they didn't know how to deal with it, you know? So when I was growing up, I drove my mom literally crazy, like crazy. Again, I had two sisters, one younger, one older, we're all 3 years apart, and I only slept 2 hours a night, maybe 3 at the very most. So you think about, like, as a parent, I have 4 kids. Thank God that these kids weren't all like me, because I'll tell you something, wow, I would have been crazier than I am already, you know? So what happened when I was like 11 years old, my mom and dad got divorced. And I got put in, my dad went off on the drinking bench, you know, and my mom and my sisters, we lived together in an apartment, and my mom came to me after about 2 months and said to me, and now you got to remember, the only thing as a kid growing up to that point right there, the only thing that ever I could just sit for hours and hours and hours still was fishing. The only thing. Everything else, bouncing off the walls, doing this, craziness, you know, I was totally out of control. But when it came to fishing, I could sit there for hours, like 6 hours, 8 hours, you know. So that was my saving grace right there, was fishing, you know. So my whole world was this, you know. I was like, you know, I always say, everybody in here, I will guarantee you this, everybody in here has some kind of addiction. And your addiction might be soda, your addiction might be coffee, your addiction might be smoking, it might be drinking, and it might be something else. But everybody in here, including myself, is addicted to something. And fishing is what I'm addicted to. When I go, and this might sound absolutely crazy to you, if I go a couple days, 3-4 days without fishing, it throws my whole balance of life off, you know? So again, that addiction. So as a kid growing up, I'm 11 years old now, and I'm living with my mom and my 2 sisters, you know? Pretty normal lifestyle, you know, up until that point. So my mom comes to me one day, and she says to me, Larry, if you want to continue living with me, you have to give up fishing. And you'll never be able to hunt, because my dad was the only things that my dad and I ever did together were fish and hunt. Fish and hunt, that was it. And so she says the other option is, if you want to continue to do the fishing, and then when you turn 12, because at that age, at that time you had to be 12 to hunt, you can go into a foster home. So I thought about it long and hard, about 36 seconds. And I said, I'll go into a foster home, right? Because my mom and I, we never got along because I drove her crazy, you know. I love my sisters, for sure, but it's just one of them things. So anyways, so they put me, again, so I go into a group home, and that's where they stage kids before they go into a foster home. So I go into this group home, you know. I'm just an innocent, skinny little kid, you know. Never was mean, didn't have that mean streak in me. And so I'm in this group home, and I'm there for maybe about a month. Like every couple days, the group home parent people, they actually had a job, and they would go to work. Well, these kids, we all had chores to do. These kids in there, these 3 boys that were a little bit older than me, they were juvenile delinquents, you know? They were hellions. They were fighters. They would beat the living shit out of me, and they would tell me if I ever said anything to anybody, it would be 10 times worse. So after, you know, whatever, after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks of taking a butt whooping every day, I said to myself, you know what? I can't take this any longer, you know? So what I'm going to do is this main kid, his name was Matt Tony. He was the one that always instigated it, always come in, and he was a Golden Glove boxer from the boys club in Oshkosh, and he was a good fighter, right? So he'd come in and, you know, punch me 6-7 times in the face, in the gut, whatever. So today, I'm ready for him. He comes in, I know what he's doing, and I got a knife. So anyways, so he comes in, and he makes a swing at me, and he just grazes my ear. I tackle him onto the couch. I got this knife, and I'm going to stab this son of a bitch, right? So I'm gonna get it, right? Because I'm done. I'm fed up with it, right? So anyways, him and I are in a struggle, and we're on the couch, we're on the floor in a struggle, and I'm trying to stick him with this knife anywhere I can stick him, because I'm sick of it, right? So he outpowers me, stronger than me. He gets the knife, throws it down. I go running for my bedroom, which I had a carp spear in there, and I grab that spear, and now I'm chasing, honest to God, this is no BS, I'm chasing him around, and I'm chasing these other 2 kids around. Well, they're like, you're a crazy son of a bitch, right? This is no kidding. From that day on, these guys became my friends. They taught me how to fight. They taught me how to do drugs. They taught me how to be a hoodlum, right? It was a good thing, right? These guys were like, they accepted me, and they thought, honestly, and I don't think I was, but they thought I was crazier than they were, right? I was just crazy because I was forced into being crazy, So anyway, I'm in this group home with these guys, and I'm in there for maybe about 6 months, 9 months, and I get put into a foster home, a placement home, right? And I'm still seeing these guys. We do stuff all the time. We just absolutely raise hell all the time. So I'm in this foster home, and they have 1 child at that time, and it's me. So things are going okay, And, so I get put into this school that's right down the road called Mara, and I'm there for, maybe 2-3 months, and they're putting me in every class there is. I'm in special classes, So one day, it's in the winter, one day we're playing, King of the Hill. So I go up, this kid is somebody's in front of him, and they're struggling with him. I go up to the back of him, and I just absolutely lace him, break his back. Well, I'm going to tell you something. That was not a good situation. So if it would have been nowadays, I'm sure I would have spent some time in jail or for something. And I didn't intentionally mean to break his back, but I'm just so full of so much energy and so much force that I just absolutely hit him the wrong way. Anyways, so obviously I get kicked out of that school, and now I go to the next school, which is, way on the other side of the north side of Oshkosh. I go to Webster, and there's some special teachers in there that kind of deal with people like me a little bit better. But meanwhile, I'm in this foster home, and realistically, it didn't take me long to figure out, because my foster mom sold drugs, and it didn't take me very long to figure out the only reason I'm really there is because they were, and I'm telling you, there's a lot of great foster parents out there. These are just the exception. I just got unlucky, I guess. Which, on one sense, they probably got unlucky because they're living with, this absolutely out of control kid. All these things kind of keep going on, and things kind of keep getting a little bit worse. But every time, you guys, things would get like to the point where you just thought, this guy isn't going anywhere. You know what? Every time what brought me back on somewhat of a track was always the outdoors, and it was always fishing. So I make it through grade school, God knows how, right? So I just think they wanted to get rid of me, which makes a lot of sense. So I make it through my first year of high school, okay? My freshman year, I make it through that. A lot of trouble, kicked in and out. I'll tell you the story real quick. So one time, we're going to have a film the next day. So my buddy and I, he's sitting, there was all chairs. He's sitting in the second row. Of course, they got me in the very back row. So we're going to have a movie the next day. So I told him, hey, let's do this. Our science teacher, his name was Lenny Harris. I said, we called him Lenny the Penny. I said, let's get each $2 worth of pennies, and when the lights go out, we're going to time it. We're going to bombard him, because he always sat right on the edge of the screen. We're going to just bombard him with these pennies. So anyways, all of a sudden this happens, the lights go out, and I'm way in the back corner. My buddy's, he's 2 rows up from where I am. So we both throw the pennies and just pelted him. Half a second, the light is on, and that son of a, sorry to say this, that son of a bitch, he's coming right at me. He comes right at me and literally just cold clocks me right down on the floor. grabs me from the back of the neck right here, and drags me up there and made me pick up 400 pennies. And the part that really ticked me off is that he kept the damn things, right? So I make it through with a few more incidents like that. So it's my first day of my sophomore year. Just walk into, I'm just telling you guys, get a feel for how I was. I just walk into the school and I get about maybe 30 yards at the most. I'm with my best friend, he's still my best friend, Rod Juber. This kid, at 12 years old, had a full beard. We were literally, this is no BS, we were literally in the bars in downtown Oshkosh at Mabel Murphy's, the B&B. He was 12 years old, I was 15, and I had a fake ID. He never one time got checked. I got checked all the time. I'm telling you. And it's still that way. He's a great person. He really, his parents, you know, I spent more time over sleeping at their house than I did over at my foster parents. So anyways, so Rodney and I are walking into school, and I go by this guy, I never saw him before, didn't mean anything. I feel this tap on my shoulder, I turn around, this guy literally picks me up like this, he's got me off the ground, and he's foaming at the mouth, and I'm like, in a maze, I'm like, I never even saw this guy, I know I didn't ever do anything to him, and he pulls me close to him like this, and he's like somebody just absolutely put some bees in his short, he is pissed. So he's like this, I'll never forget this as long as I live. He goes, my name is Mr. McCartney, and I am the new principal of this school, Mr. Smith, and we will not have any problem, boom, 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 with you this year, will. Boom. On the ground I go. Woo! Let me tell you, I made it about 2 months in there, and that was the end of that. He's like, you get the heck out of my school, don't ever come back at all. So that right there was the end of my education, for the most part. Mostly everything after that was learned on getting a job, because, you know, that's one thing that I really got from my dad. I didn't get to spend a ton of time with him after all this happened when I went into a foster home when I was 11 years old. But my dad worked for a paper company in Neenah called Gilbert Paper Company, and the guy worked there for 44 years and never missed one day of work, not one day of work. So having that work ethic really was instilled in my brain. So now here I am. I'm a kid that doesn't have a high school diploma. I don't want to go to school. I hate school. I get in trouble all the time. I can't stand still enough. So what do, right? At that time in my life, I had no idea, like no clue at all that I was going to make a living in the outdoors. Like, unbelievable. Like, if somebody would have said that to me, I would have literally, like, get a life. There is no way that I'm going to make a